Thank you very much. Well, hi everybody. My name is Evgeny Morozov. I work for Transitions Online. Will asked me is to maybe give a very short introduction to what I already said on Wednesday for those of you who missed it, and then to follow up with whatever I didn't have time for to do on Wednesday. So those of you who have seen some of the slides, just it will be a nice refresher since there are so many of them. Okay, so on Wednesday I started briefly by showing this distinction between what we saw back in the 19th century, with this famous book, The Madness of Crowds, right? And what we've come to in 2004 was another very famous book, The Wisdom of Crowds, right? How our perception of the roles that masses and crowds of people can play in the decision-making process. Right, and basically the message I was trying to communicate to you on Wednesday is that, as technology gets smarter, and as science gets more and more precise, and as we actually understand the world much better in, in technical terms, there is still a greater need and a growing need for human interaction and for community and human-driven processes, right? So this slide, I think, captures it very wisely. We are moving from Intel insight, from automation, to human insight, to human processes as being part of that, maybe even automation process, right? Then this slide I didn't show to you on Wednesday, but I think it captures very well the evolution of web as a whole. And I don't know if you can see it, but those sort of light grayish part, the first wave says daily me, and the second wave says daily we, right? So it's the evolution of the web, where back in the late 70s and 80s, when the internet was in the whole network thing was just developing, we were very isolated in what we can do online, right? There was not much community interaction. And somewhere close to year 2000, there was another social dimension added to the web, right? All of the processes that we thought about as very individual, closed processes now suddenly became social, right? And if you look at that graph, you can look at it probably later in my presentation, you'll see that many processes that used to be defined as very individual became suddenly social. And I showed you many examples, right? Sharing links on Delicious, sharing voices on various podcasting sites like Audio, sharing experiences on sites like YouTube, right, where you were sharing videos, sharing moments on sites like Flickr, finally even sharing your browsing and surfing experiences using browsers like Flock, right, which actually allows you to surf and explore the internet together with other people. So you're not even surfing alone anymore, right? And finally, sooner or later we'll see the emergence of social TV, right? And you already see some developments on that front with Just, which is a platform for peer-to-peer on-demand television, which sooner or later will have a very advanced social networking functionality in it. Basically, what it would do is that while you're watching a given program, which is on demand already, you will be able to chat with all of the people in your social network in real time about how you like the program. You would be able to incorporate what other people in your network think about a particular program in your decision whether to watch it, right? So it's basically, it will be like Amazon user reviews, but for TV. And on a very basic level, Juiced and Babelgum and other peer-to-peer video networking platforms are already doing it. And basically what I was driving at is that, this new social dimension creates a new, even social sixth sense in us, right? Where we understand much better what other members of our immediate community are doing, right? And there are some, and I showed many more slides about ambient intimacy, which I think is a very nice concept, which defines how we interact with those immediate social neighbors online, whether it's for discovering music, for discovering photos, or for discovering videos, right? Again, this chart I didn't show you on Wednesday, but I think it very well captures the dimension, the future direction of the web, right? On the vertical axis, you have degree of information connectivity. And on the horizontal axis, you have degree of social connectivity, right? So we are now, I think, somewhere in that lower level, where the web just connects information, right? We see some very interesting developments on the other front, where social software connects people, and we see some very interesting developments on the semantic web front, where the web connects knowledge. But I think the ultimate destination, and that's where things are slowly moving, is the meta web, right? It's where the web connects intelligence, right? Where it's not just sharing photos or sharing videos, it's a much more comprehensive process where we're actually being able to produce knowledge as a result of all this. Again, it's a very deep, I think, graph which you have to ponder upon, and I'll just gonna skip it very quickly. So the sort of final point I was driving at is that we see the emergence of a new economy, which some people would call peer-to-peer economy, right? Where the nature of our interaction with other people is not necessarily defined by money or by other traditional currencies, right? Again, it's defined by something else, whether it's emotions, whether it's our status in some social hierarchy, or something else. It's not necessarily dollars or euros or anything of that sort, right? Another topic we touched upon on Wednesday, just to refresh you, was the concept of digital natives, right? The young people who basically grew up on the web without knowing any other territory, right? So they take the web very naturally. And again, I showed you this survey from Reuters, which came out this week, where basically they asked the young people about their relationship to the web, and the young people actually said they don't see technology or the web as a separate concept. So for them, it's already part of their life, as for us, television or public transportation is, right? So they ask them particularly about social networks, and only 16% said that they do identify social networks as something separate from what they do. For 84%, social networks are already part of the daily existence, which they do not even separate from other activities that they're doing. Do look it up. It's a very interesting survey, right? And the bigger point I was making is that the young people who are eventually going to grow up in 5 or 10 years are not going to see any difference between old media and new media, right? For them, like our definitions of old media being very centralized, people broadcasting to you, through sort of some very defined platform, and the new media where everything is decentralized. This is our understanding of this dichotomy. For young people who are going to grow up in 5, 10 years, this dichotomy is not going to exist. So for them, it's going to become, social media. It's eventually it's going to merge. And if you look at that graph, it's not going to be TV, radio, and print separated from blogs, wikis, and forums. It's going to be one sort of ecosystem in which they will all be communicating to each other, and in which blogs and new media will interact with old media to produce something common. Again, as I've said, that this new economy would require new metrics, and those metrics would be something which is not necessarily money, right? And we discussed that on Wednesday, and that's why I put this graph on today, why bloggers actually engage in what they're doing, right? We had this argument on Wednesday, whether it's the monetary motivation which is driving them, or whether it's something else. And it comes from a survey from last year, carried in North America, was actually asked bloggers about what motivates them to blog, right? And it's only 7% of people, of bloggers, who actually said that they blog for making money, right? And so it's a major reason for 7%, and it's not at all a reason for 85%. Okay? So there are other motivational factors at play here, right? And as you see, the top major reason is expressing yourself creatively, documenting your personal experiences, staying in touch with friends and family, which again, to me, suggests that a pure monetary framework of analyzing this behavior is not particularly appropriate, right? So we have to devise new theories and new motivational sort of incentive structures to understand why people engage in whatever they engage. Well, and that's just a funny cartoon to show you that it's not necessarily even producing something useful. That why people are doing it, right? Again, we spoke a little bit about Eric von Hippel and his book, right, Democratizing Innovation, which I think is a crucial book for everybody to read to understand how individual users of a product can actually contribute